All right. Hey there, everybody that is watching this special video. I've got my good friend with me here, but before I introduce him, I wanted to just kind of talk to you guys here about this new thing that just came out this morning about three people that were indicted on a house flipping scheme, and it actually happened up north in Indiana and a little bit of like the Chicagoland area. And I wanted to, first of all, go over this. I didn't want to take too much time on it. I just wanted to kind of touch on like these people were like complete morons with what they were doing. And I wanted to bring on my good friend and fellow board member, Matthew Griffith. He is an attorney here in Indiana. He helps me out a lot with things that I need within my business. And I wanted to bring him on just to kind of touch on the legal aspect since I'm not an attorney. So let me introduce Matthew. Are you with me, buddy?
I am. I'm here.
Cool, cool. So I really wanted Matt to come on here to kind of go over, some of the things that, I filled him in on this article. He didn't, he heard about something similar, but I wanted to kind of bring him on just, from his expertise, obviously, as an attorney, and just to kind of just let you guys know, like, why this isn't cool. And if you just do business the right way, you could have a simple business operation going on that you'll never have to worry about getting in trouble for. As long as you just do things the right way, you won't have these types of issues of being indicted. So Matt, I know I kind of filled you in a little bit before we actually started doing this. Um, I know you told me some of the things like that you were mentioning with, what they did. And for those of you that aren't familiar with this article, I'll let you know they were doing stuff with HUD. And if you've ever done a HUD deal, it's not rocket science. And we'll get into some of the things that you could be doing on the right way. But Matt, kind of tell people who don't know you or are familiar with you, just kind of let them know who you are and, your website, things like that.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I'm a Indianapolis, Indiana real estate attorney. We do a lot of real estate. We do a lot of business law in my firm. I'm a real estate investor myself. I've helped run or start a couple real estate investor associations here in central Indiana, and actually was a founder of a statewide organization. I've represented small business owners, real estate investors, folks involved in real estate, from the trades to land developers, builders, pretty much everything involved with real estate for 25 years. So I've heard about and seen every crazy scheme and trick you can imagine, and some that are just unimaginable. But that's what I do. I represent a lot of real estate investors, property management companies. So I pretty much have my fingers in real estate investing every day.
Awesome. And the best, I know you've got, and we could touch on this at the end on how people could reach out to you, but what's the main website for your business?
My main law firm website is indybizlaw.com. That's INDYBIZLAW, indybizlaw.com. But I also believe that attorneys high attorneys fees are a real impediment to people getting good quality legal services, and
Absolutely.
you're starting to see, yeah, it's a big problem. So sometimes self-diagnose their legal troubles and come up with what they think are solutions, and oftentimes they cause more problems for themselves because they try to be their own lawyer and or their own accountant, and they make mistakes. So you can get a lot of information. You can maybe even get some knowledge from the internet, but what you can't get is experience and wisdom and judgment. So I think there are times when you do need to seek out legal counsel, but other times you just need good legal forms. So I did start a virtual law office called indianavirtuallaw.com, indianavirtuallaw.com. And that's mostly for real estate investors who need good Indiana-specific real estate forms. And the idea there was I see a lot of legal forms that aren't appropriate in Indiana, but people are using them in Indiana. So I wanted to dedicate a site to a good source of cost-effective legal solutions for folks. So that's why we started that website.
Yeah, no, and I highly recommend it, especially if you're working on a budget and you need some really good documents to be using within your business. It's a huge must to be doing, and it helps you stay out of trouble. So that's obviously one of the key things that we obviously want to have for ourselves when we're doing business. So definitely check it out. Even if you're not in Indiana, it might be a good thing just for you to check out those documents. And if you want to have somebody else in your state take a look at them, just to see what needs to be in there from your state perspective, it's still going to help save you a ton of money in the long run. So definitely check it out. And let's kind of touch on some of the things that just popped up here, Matt, with these three. It's actually a horrible thing. A father um, out of Chicago, 46 years old, got his son involved with him. And that's cool. Obviously, getting your family involved with what you're doing, but this was done in the wrong way. His son, 27. These guys were bidding on HUD homes. It looks like, as I'm looking on the article right now, Gary, Indiana, Hammond, Indiana, East Chicago, and Hobart, Indiana, and some of the other places. Um, they weren't properly disclosing, and I'm a huge person on having complete transparent operations within my business. I want to be fully disclosed on everything I'm doing so that nothing is left to be questioned. Some of the things that they were doing, Matt, they were putting for sale signs outside the HUD homes before they actually purchased the property. That right there, guys, that's a huge no. Don't do that. That's just completely stupid. Some of the other things they're getting in trouble here for fraud. And I'm going to tell you guys a way that you could do this the right way. And I'm not going to charge you some large gargantuan fee. This is just I want to share this with you just so you can do this. They were using fake proof of funds letters. Um, Before I go any further, Matt, do you have any comment on using a fake proof of funds letter with a government agency?
That would fall in the category of really bad advice to do that. The main problem here's where these guys really got sideways and why they're going to spend a big chunk of the next several years in jail and be broke. These guys, this father-son team, according to the article and this judge's decision, I mean, this thing has been litigated for years. Essentially, they made factual misrepresentation, and that's the basic element of fraud in lots of different contexts. So there's state statutes, there's federal statutes, and there's common law rules prohibiting fraud in different contexts. You can't defraud the federal government, and there's lots of statutes that say you can't defraud the federal government. And the principal way you commit fraud is to tell a lie that induces the other side to do business with you. So the definition of fraud is a material misrepresentation about an existing fact or condition that induces someone to change their position to their detriment. Okay,
Right.
So there's a lot built into that. But let me give you a great example. This is an example I always give when I'm trying to teach my clients what these concepts mean. If Jason, let's say that you are going to buy a house from me,
Yep.
and you say, hey Matt, does the basement leak? And I know the basement leaks every time there's 3 raindrops and coming from the sky. This basement's going to leak. Okay? And I say, I'm not sure if it's going to leak in the future or not. Okay? Well, I've actually not committed fraud because I made a prediction about a future event or condition. Okay. But if I say, oh no, this basement's always dry. Well, I know that's not true. That's a misrepresentation about a fact or condition that exists today. Today. Okay, so that's the basis of fraud. And sometimes people will try to trick you, and they'll try to tell you that something may or may not happen in the future as a way of tricking you, and it may not constitute fraud. So you got to be really careful that you don't get tricked into being cheated without having a fraud claim to assert against somebody.
Right.
In this case, what these guys were doing is essentially they were acting as if they owned properties and had money when they didn't. So they were giving proof of fund letters out that they had created. They knew they were false, and it was a material misrepresentation about their current financial condition. In other words, they were making a misrepresentation about whether they had money in the bank and could close or not. And they cheated people by basically giving out these fraudulent proof of fund letters and convincing people that they had lots of money when they didn't.
Right.
They also were cheating people and making them believe that they had more real estate than they actually had. And so they were encouraging people to do deals with them based upon things that were not true, facts, not predictions of future events, but facts that existed today. So it was clearly fraud. And they defrauded not only the government, but they also defrauded an investor.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a
because
bad
I
deal all
saw
around.
10 counts, 10 counts.
Yeah.
And some of the things that I really didn't understand is how would because they guys, I don't understand exactly this. That's why I also had Matt on here. Is they were able to place liens on the HUD properties. I don't know how they would be able to do that. Do you know what type of liens they were placing? Because as soon as I hear that, I'm like, what the heck? How did they place a lien on a HUD property without some sort of a signature from the seller, meaning HUD in this case? So that's another thing that just baffles my mind is like, how were they able to put liens on these properties? And I think they probably took some sort of a course to where somebody may have told them to do this, but you don't place liens on these types of properties. It just does not make sense. Like, do you know what type of liens they were putting on these properties?
Well, all liens fall into essentially two categories, two types. We have voluntary and involuntary liens. A voluntary lien is a mortgage. So we voluntarily give a bank a mortgage on our property, and the bank gives us cash, right? Okay, or a line of credit or something. Okay, so that's a voluntary lien. An involuntary lien is a thing like a mechanic's lien or a judgment lien. You don't want to give a lien to somebody. They just basically assert it, and they have some kind of right to do so. In this case, these guys, it looks like they were putting involuntary liens on, but they had no legal basis for doing so. So they were just making it up, like they were making up their proof of fund letters.
Oh my. Yeah, that I kind of figured it was something like that. So just doing things like that, like, too, like raises like, why would you even have the need to do that if you're doing business the right way? Now, trust me, guys, I understand like option contracts, if you're working with the seller and they understand. Now that's different. If the seller understands that you're putting an option on the property and you have it fully disclosed, like, hey, you're going to be marketing the property for sale, that's a totally different topic. That's a totally different subject to go over. These people were placing, like Matt said, involuntary liens on these properties, and HUD had no idea about it. So again, there's no transparency there. There's no open dialogue. There's no communication. It's just something that you should not be doing. Now, they were also, when they were going through the HUD process, if you've never done this before, it's actually quite simple. When you're going on HUD and you're making these bids, if you are an investor, mark it as an investor. If you do not plan on occupying the property as an owner occupant, don't mark it as an owner occupant property. Mark it as an investor. Okay, they did that part correctly. They did that part correctly. Now, if you do not have the funds to purchase this property, not a problem. Mark it as you'll be receiving financing. So even if you are using like a transactional funder, somebody that will give you funds for a day, you still need to mark down that you're receiving financing, okay? Because it's not coming out of your pocket, right? So you need to mark that off as financing, okay? So mark that off as financing. And what I typically like to do is I like to purchase the properties in my name or in my business name. It's whatever preference you have. Some people think that you get a better discount if you from HUD if you put it in your own personal name. I I don't really think there's that big of a discount, or HUD's going to be like, oh, they're buying it in their personal name, they're still an investor. I don't think you're going to receive that big of a discount compared to having it in your LLC name. So you could purchase it either or. But again, you have to mark it down as investor. And if you are using like a transactional funder or a private money loans might be a little bit different. But if you're using somebody like, and I'll give you guys the name of the person I use. I use Dwayne Ortega from besttransactionfunding.com. He does want you guys to put down that you're receiving financing, because you're receiving financing. It's day funding, and you're being charged 1.5%. So that's what you do. So you're going to be using that person. So best transaction funding, you receive an actual proof of funds letter. So if HUD wants to call and verify that these funds are available, they will be available. They could best transaction funding can provide whatever documentation needed to show that they have the funds to fund the deal. So totally different story here. You'll actually be receiving a real letter, not a counterfeit. No fraud will be there. And you're not stating that you have a line of credit. You're stating that you have funds for this deal. The address of the deal will be in the proof of funds letter, and that's what you use. You don't use some fraudulent line of credit letter that was signed by you. It's just not something that you do. Let me put it this way: making $10,000, $20,000 isn't worth it to go to jail for whatever amount of years that these individuals are going to be going away for. So those are some of the key things that I would recommend that you can use. It's not rocket science, again. And the other thing too, Matt, that these guys were doing. Oh, hold on. Were you going to say something before I go to the next topic?
I wanted to tell you there was something else crazy these guys were doing. They were doing some weird transactions with this investor named Wittig. And what they were doing was they were committing what we call fraudulent conveyances. Fraudulent conveyancers. Sometimes you'll hear them called fraudulent transfers. And basically it works like this. If you're getting sued, or you're in a dispute with someone, or you owe somebody money and you know they're going to be coming after you, and you have not gone to a lawyer in advance and done any kind of asset protection planning, and you say, oh no, they're going to come get all my assets, I better start moving stuff around the deck, like hiding assets. And you transfer assets to a family member or to a good buddy with a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, when the smoke clears, give this back to me.
Right.
Or I'm going to sell you this $200,000 property for $50,000, or crazy stuff like that. That's called a fraudulent conveyance. You're hiding assets. You're transferring assets around to people, and you're doing so to avoid a creditor's claim. So you're trying to hide the equity you might have in a property. Okay. Now, asset protection planning done in advance for legitimate, lawful reasons is fine, but hiding assets from creditors when you know there's going to be a problem, that's a totally different story. So what they were doing is they were selling these properties to this guy named Wittig, and then Wittig would turn around sometimes on the exact same day. He would transfer them back into the defendants, Garcia's were their name. He'd transfer it back into their self-directed IRA. So and here's why they were doing that. They were doing that because they thought if the assets were in a self-directed IRA or any kind of IRA or retirement account, they would be free from collections. They're what we call exempt. So assets you have in an IRA, any kind of pre-tax retirement account,
Yeah.
Creditors can't normally get to those assets. So if you have a pension or an IRA or a 403B or a 401k, those assets almost always, not always, but almost always are exempt from creditor claims. So they thought that they could fraudulently convey equity into a self-directed IRA, and then it would be exempt from creditor claims.
Wow.
The problem was the transfer into the IRA was unlawful. It was fraudulent. They were doing it to hide money from creditors. It's not like the Garcias had a job at a factory for 20 years and had, accumulated a bunch of retirement savings, right? And they were trying to protect their retirement savings. No, they were trying to screw over this plaintiff. And here's the really sad case. This Pringle guy who got defrauded by these knuckleheads, he actually died before this was resolved.
Oh, man.
He never saw his money. He died, and he never got to see his money. So his estate had to pursue the claim. So his heirs are fighting for his money.
Wow. That's just awful. So it's just, and that just bringing this all up, I just, I wanted to do this video just to kind of shed some light on just do business the right way. There's no reason to try and skate around and do it in a manner that doesn't make sense. It's a foolish thing to do. And you guys can see this. I'll put the link for this page. Like, one of the guys is 27 and the other guy's 46, the dad. Like, and one of the other individuals out of Lansing, Michigan, Timothy Green, he's only 29. That's just, it's like you're sacrificing like pennies of your life to go to jail. Like, as soon as these guys are out, like you're pretty much screwed. So it's really kind of tough for me to fathom why somebody would do something like this. It's just what you could take a look at this page yourself and just be like, okay, so these guys did this. I need to do the opposite of that. So good learning experience on this page. It's just doesn't make sense. But anything on there, Matt, to kind of close this out? I don't want to take up a bunch of time going over this. I know I kind of gave some tips on doing it the right way versus what these morons did. But do you have anything else you want to share?
Well, I just wonder whether these guys did go to some kind of boot camp or seminar and someone told them this stuff was proper.
Well, I bet they did.
A lot of good people do really, really bad things, and they don't know that they're wrong. And, I often tell the story about how I was on the plane coming back from National RIA meeting, their mid-year conference. I was a speaker there one year, and I'm flying back with a member of our local RIA. He was a board member. And I didn't know the guy very well, so I just, we struck up a conversation, and I was asking him about his investment portfolio and his strategy and what he does, just kind of get to know the guy.
Yeah.
And he starts describing how he does business, and I said, stop, quick, give me $1 so we can say I'm your attorney. Because everything you're doing is illegal. Basically, he was committing lender fraud. They were jacking up the price of properties, and then they were doing a deal out in the parking lot where there was a kickback on the price because they were artificially inflating the price to get the lender to lend more money. And a long time ago, that was pretty common.
Yeah.
Like 20 years ago, it was very common. People did that all the time. And then the real estate market crashed because there was so much mortgage fraud out there. I mean, it was crazy. And, and then everybody realized, oh, wow, that technique that I learned, like I can get my rehab money out of the mortgage company and rehab it later, right? So no harm, no foul. I'm going to squeeze 20 grand of extra money out of the mortgage lender, but it's okay because I'm going to put 20,000 into the property when I get my my check in the parking lot after the real closing. It's still illegal, right? And people did that deal all the time. And you just wonder whether these guys just were going to a bad RIA or had gone to a bad boot camp, or they're not listening to the right people. And I would just warn everybody listening, make sure you know where you're getting your information.
Yeah.
Like, you have to really know that you're getting good quality real estate investor information from high quality sources and people that really believe in following the law and have a really high ethos, right? And if you're talking to the wrong people and you're getting the wrong information, you could really get in trouble. These guys are going to jail, and they're going to be broke the rest of their lives. And you just wonder whether all of this was taught to them from some unscrupulous real estate investor trainer.
It probably was. And it's unfortunate that a lot of those folks are out there. A good friend of mine, Brian Mira, and if he's watching this, what he's doing out there now is so cool. He's doing some of this out in like the East Coast area, like New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and and I've been talking to him for a while now, and what we're trying to raise awareness on is stop going to these people that aren't fulfilling themselves. Like, a lot of these people
Yeah.
that I talk to on a daily basis, Matt, they get the smoke and mirrors. They'll talk to some salesperson, that they were like, oh, I'm going to get a part of this coaching program, and then they get fulfilled by some 22-year-old in some Utah fulfillment center that's reading off of a script. It's like, come on, like, you know, these people take your $35,000 and they don't even fulfill for you. Like, we have, I only take on a few people just because I'm a full-time investor myself, but I fulfill with all of the individuals that I take on. And Matt knows that. He's been to our investor boardrooms before, and I go all out. I make sure that people are doing things the right way and not the wrong way. And, you really do have to kind of look at the person that you're working with and really kind of studying and analyzing to see, if their track record really shows like they're going to actually be working with you and not pushing you off to somebody that has maybe done less than a handful of deals or has never done a deal before. So it's just, a lot of these TV show personalities are going out and doing these seminars. They're not even showing up to the seminar. They're just having some other fulfillment center, run the seminar for you. And it's not cool. Not cool at all. So I would just recommend that you do that. I wasn't going to be I didn't want to do this video as like a plug for you guys to check me out. But if you want to, I have there's nothing for sale on my webinar. It's just kind of, you get to know me a little bit more. And if you want to, head on over to jasontraining.com and check out the webinar. Lots of great stuff on there. I share a lot. There's nothing again for sale on there, so check it out when you want to, and get to a good RIA. We have a great RIA here, Matt and I. Matt formed it a few years ago, and I'm a board member over there, and we run a really tight ship. And the people that come are awesome. They're really good people. They're doing business the right way. So I'm just going to kind of leave it with that. But Matt, do you have any final words that you would like to share, buddy?
No, I think everybody should, other than what you just said, I think everybody should find the right group, find high quality sources of information, find the right RIA, not the one that sells books and tapes at every meeting and just, that's how they fund themselves, but one that's really dedicated and has we have a code of conduct, and we expect our members to, it's on a banner. Our code of conduct's on a banner at the podium, like every meeting, and we expect our people to, live by it. And it's don't do business with troublemakers. Always follow the law. Always do win-win deals. Never do any harm. Those are really important concepts. And you can make a lot of money in real estate and do it the right way, but you got to do it the right way.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. And guys, if you want to, if you're in Indiana, or if you want to check out some of the stuff that Matt has, especially, get your documents done, Indy Virtual Law, right, Matt? Can you say your domains again?
Yeah. IndianaVirtualLaw.com or IndyBizLaw.com.
Okay. Cool. Well, guys, that's all the time that we have for this. I just wanted to cover this information. Hopefully, you were able to kind of see what not to do and gain some of the helpful tips that I was able to give on doing HUD deals. There's a right way and a wrong way of doing it. So Make sure you get with the right person. Hopefully, some of the information that Matt and I shared on here can give you some insights on how to do business the right way. If you continue to check out this page that this video is on, Matt and I are going to try and put out some additional information that can be helpful for you, and we'll just kind of go from there. But other than that, thanks for your time, and we'll look forward to seeing you on our next call here. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.